Russian forces continued their offensive operations on the Kupiansk-Svatove-Kremina line on November 1st, achieving some successes. Analyses from the end of October suggest that they moved east of Pietropoloka, located 7 kilometers east of Kupiansk. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian side reported that it had repelled several Russian attacks in various locations, including Sinkovka, Ivanivka, Stelmakivka, and Nadzieja. Despite Russian efforts, the commander of the Ukrainian ground forces, Colonel General Oleksandr Syrsky, assured that the Russians had not made any significant progress towards Kupiansk. There were reports in the Russian media about the involvement of Russian aviation and the actions of the 1st Guards Tank Army. However, on November 1st, according to Ukrainian information, there were no Russian offensive actions towards Lyman. Other Russian sources mentioned slight advances near Yampolivka and Torske. In turn, Russian sources informed that on November 1st, Ukrainian forces attempted attacks on the same line, but they failed. The Russian Ministry of Defense mentions repelling several Ukrainian attacks in various locations, including Sinkovka and the Serebryansky forest area. The leader of the Luhansk People's Republic, Leonid Pasechnik, reports multiple attempted Ukrainian attacks in various locations over the past week. On November 2nd, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, announced the successful repulse of the Russian attempt to attack the city of Vuhledar, located in the Donetsk Oblast. Zelensky emphasized that Russia suffered heavy losses in this action, both in people and equipment. Vuhledar, a site located 50 kilometers southwest of occupied Donetsk, had previously witnessed the defeat of Russian forces. At the beginning of 2023, Russia lost there, according to various sources, thousands of soldiers and over 100 armored vehicles. In his statement, Zelensky also mentioned ongoing offensive operations in the south of the country and defensive operations near Avdiivka, another important point in the Donetsk Oblast. Russia intensified its attacks in the area in early October, which led to significant losses in its ranks. The American Research Institute for the Study of War, ISW, pointed out that the Russian military command is unable to learn from the mistakes it has made before. According to information from the British Ministry of Defense, Ukrainian operations have destroyed at least 4 Russian missile launchers in the occupied territories over the last week. The destroyed equipment includes expensive S-400 Triumph launchers. Ukraine was enriched with modern technologies that were introduced to the battlefield, causing significant losses in Russian equipment. The Ukrainian arsenal includes high-mobility artillery missile systems and long-range military tactical missile systems provided by the United States. Ukraine also uses long-range missiles from allies such as Great Britain and France. These modern missiles were used to attack Russian hinterlands, including warehouses and command posts. On November 1st, Russian troops tried to conduct an offensive operation towards Bakhmut, but their actions brought neither alleged nor confirmed successes. Information from the Ukrainian General Staff shows that the Russians tried to strengthen their positions in the vicinity of Klishchevka, Andriivka, and Pivdeny. All of these places are located in the close vicinity of Bakhmut. Lieutenant Colonel Volodymyr Fityo, representing the Ukrainian Ground Forces Command, signaled that Russia was directing its reserves towards Bakhmut to carry out further offensive actions after the defensive period. However, according to ISW, no increase in Russian forces has been observed in this region. In turn, Russian military commentators suggested Russian operations northwest of Bakhmut, especially in the area of Berkovka and Bodanoka. On the other hand, Ukrainian units conducted a counteroffensive towards Bakhmut, but their actions also did not result in any alleged or confirmed progress. Russian sources reported an unsuccessful Ukrainian attack on the areas near Zelenopol and on the section of the railway line between Klishchevka and Andriivka. According to the Ukrainian General Staff, Ukrainian troops continued to conduct counteroffensive operations south of Bakhmut. On November 2nd, the Behuz.info investigative team revealed that a number of properties owned by pro-Russian oligarch Viktor Medvedchuk and his wife Oksana Marchenko are still in their possession and have not been officially taken over by the Ukrainian state. Medvedchuk, who for many years served as a close ally of Russian leader Vladimir Putin in Ukraine, was accused of acting to the detriment of the state. In 2021, he was placed under house arrest but managed to escape during Russia's massive invasion of Ukraine Ukraine. In April 2022, he was detained again, and a few months later in September, he was handed over to Russia as part of a prisoner exchange. Marchenko is subject to sanctions from the UK and is on the wanted list in Ukraine. Although the couple does not currently live in Ukraine, they still own numerous properties there, including a luxury hotel and spa in the Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast, a villa in the Carpathians, and an estate in the capital, Kiev, Behus reported. Even though one of the properties in Kiev has been closed down, Marchenko is still listed as its owner, and there are security guards working on its premises. Journalists emphasized that despite the formal freezing of both of their assets, they seem to be able to pay for security services. Similar inconsistencies were noticed regarding the security of their other properties, which were formally complicated but did not undergo complete confiscation. However, some land has already been confiscated. In May, a court in Kiev decided to take over the land located on the Dnieper, owned by Marchenko. These areas were found to have been privatized illegally and are now to be returned to the state. The Kiev Regional Prosecutor's Office is seeking to recover 9.5 hectares of forest land, the value of which is estimated at over 204 million hryvnias, equivalent to $5.6 million US. On November 1st, Ukrainian units did not carry out any documented or suspected land attacks on the border area of the Donetsk-Zaporozhye region. At the same time, Russian troops were conducting offensive operations in this zone, and information shows that they have made some progress. The Ukrainian General Staff reports that the Russians carried out ineffective attacks in the vicinity of Prechestivka, 9 kilometers southeast of Veliky Novosilka, Zolota Niva, 11 kilometers in the same direction, and Staromayorske, 9 kilometers south of the mentioned city. In turn, a Russian military commentator emphasizes that part of the Russian 121st, the motorized rifle division belonging to the 5th Combined Armed Forces Army Eastern Military District, operates in the Rovnopol area, 8 kilometers southwest of Veliky Novosilka. It also indicates that components of the 60th Motorized Rifle Brigade, which may be linked to the 143rd, the division and the Motorized Rifle Regiment attacked west of Staromayorsk. A Russian battalion called Vostok, allegedly operating southeast of Veliky Novosilka, reported that on October 31st, Russian units achieved successes in imprecisely defined locations along the border of the Donetsk-Zaporozhye Oblast. On November 2nd, the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office announced that the Ukrainian High Anti-Corruption Court had decided to arrest MP Jaroslav Dubnowicz. He is accused of embezzlement amounting to $93 million, $2.5 million. Dubnowicz, together with a group of 8 accomplices, allegedly participated in a conspiracy involving the purchase of goods for the state carrier Ukrzalizentsia at highly overestimated prices and pocketing the difference in price. Additionally, the MP is suspected of corruption in the context of illegal misappropriation of state natural gas worth over $2 billion and 100 million HRR, $58 million, and attempts at money laundering. The court issued an international arrest warrant for Dubnowicz due to his absence at the trial on October 26. Prosecutors' findings show that Dubnowicz crossed the Ukrainian border on October 8th. However, it is unclear exactly how he left the country, as there are no official records of his departure. Dubnowicz's whereabouts are currently unknown. Information about the arrest warrant has been forwarded to the European Union Agency for Law Enforcement Cooperation, but there is also no information about its location. Even though corruption is one of the biggest problems in Ukraine, next to the armed conflict, many citizens express hope that the government's actions in combating it will be effective. Russian military bloggers constantly emphasize that Ukrainian troops are still holding their positions and carrying out military operations in the east of the Kherson Oblast. They noted that Ukrainian forces carried out an attack in the areas of Poima, 12 kilometers southeast of Kherson and 4 kilometers from the Dnieper, and Pishchenivka, 14 kilometers east of Kherson and 3 kilometers from the Dnieper River. Meetings also take place near Krinky, which is located 30 kilometers northeast of Kherson and 2 kilometers from the Dnieper. Military bloggers from Russia indicate that Ukrainian soldiers are strengthening their positions in Krinky, where Russian forces are intensifying their bombardment, including using TOS-1A thermobaric artillery. One of the Russian bloggers also reported that the area near Krinky was mined by Ukrainian forces to impede the operations of Russian infantry in the area. Forces from Ukraine launched an attack in the south of the country on November 1st. Vladimir Saldo, leader of the occupied Kherson region, said that Russian forces shot down 7 Ukrainian missiles heading towards Crimea, and 2 missiles landed on uninhabited areas of the Arabet Spit, causing no damage or casualties. In response to a potential missile threat, the Russian administration in the Kherson Oblast set up smoke screens on the bridge in the Kerch Strait. However, one Russian military blogger criticized these actions, comparing them to a plaster on a dead body, noting their lack of effectiveness. Yulia Sviridenko, Minister of Economy of Ukraine, in an interview with Forbes Ukraine on November 2nd, indicated that the country's post-war economic revival will require the return of 4.5 million citizens who left Ukraine in the face of the conflict. Although a total of over 6 million people emigrated from Ukraine during the full-scale Russian invasion, UN data shows that only 1 million returned to the country. Minister Sviridenko emphasized that bringing back these 4.5 million immigrants will be crucial for Ukraine's economic recovery. Polls suggest that the majority of refugees from Ukraine want to return to their country, but they will only do so if they are sure about their safety, housing, and work. Such conditions must be provided by the Ministry of Economy. Security in the country is mainly in the hands of the armed forces. Sviridenko also added that the government plans to remove 80% of explosive devices from the areas liberated from Russian occupation within 10 years. In terms of housing provision, government initiatives such as the AO Celia mortgage program are helpful. In turn, jobs are created thanks to government subsidy programs aimed at training, business development, and support for specific sectors of the economy. Data indicate that the emigration of people of working age has a significant impact on the economy of Ukraine. September saw the highest number of available jobs since the beginning of the invasion, with a simultaneous decline in the number of willing candidates. A survey conducted on November 1st by the National Bank of Ukraine showed that Ukrainian companies notice serious staff shortages, which leads to more pessimistic economic expectations. It should also be added that most Ukrainians who fled the country during the conflict are currently in the European Union. Thanks to the EU Temporary Protection Directive, they have the right to live and work in the EU until March 4th, 2025.